Clover Moore has held the New South Wales seat of Sydney since 1988 and was elected Lord Mayor of Sydney in 2004. Now, since then, she's had a profound impact on local and state politics in New South Wales with her community-first approach to politics. And it's our pleasure to welcome the Lord Mayor here this morning to officially hand over the keys to the city and declare 9 a.m. in Sydney open. Good morning, Clover Moore.
Good morning, Kim. Good morning, David. Look, you're very welcome to Sydney and this wonderful sun, and I wish I'd brought my sunglasses.
Yes, you did. I'm sorry.
Very bright. It's been cold and wet up till now, so you're going to have some wonderful Sydney weather this week.
Yeah, we're very lucky, aren't we?
How tough is it for the Lord Mayor of Sydney to get Sydney noticed when there's such a vibrant cultural hub such as Melbourne, an hour's flight to the south?
Sydney and Melbourne are very different, and we offer people very different things. I think Melbourne's a wonderful city, and I think you've got a wonderful bar culture going there, and a wonderful laneway culture going there, and a wonderful tram system going there. And we only have to look out here and see what Sydney's got going for us too. Sydney's a very beautiful city. It's got beautiful geography, beautiful climate, and it's very, very interesting and eclectic. And there are things we need to do, and there are things we can learn from Melbourne, and I think they're quite complementary.
You just mentioned the bar culture in Melbourne. I noticed in the paper over the weekend that you've been trying to get the licensing laws changed in order to promote that kind of thing here in Sydney.
Because the licensing laws are much more, it's much more expensive to buy an alcohol licence here.
Yes, I mean, you can get your licences in Melbourne for around about $500. And here it can be anything from up to 12 to the highest, I think, 60,000. And not only that, it's really complex and difficult. And people who do want to open up funky little bars and employ musicians and create those sorts of venues that you've got going in Melbourne think, God, I can't really do it here. And so they go off to Melbourne. And there's an absolute groundswell of support, I have to say, for the change. Our laws really are archaic. They seem to be a throwback to the 6 o'clock swill, or even the rum call, some would say. And so I'm hoping that the New South Wales Parliament will respond to this really strong groundswell, and we'll see reform. Melbourne went through it in the 80s and the 90s, and we need to do that here.
And Clover, does it help or hinder your position when you juggle these two positions so well, I should say?
I don't juggle, they're so complementary. I mean, at the city, we've just developed a new proposal for our nightlife here, and then in Parliament I can sponsor a private members bill to reform the licensing system, and I find I'm working on the same issues for the same community and being more effective. A bit more work, but I don't shy from that, and it just makes me much more effective, and I think many more doors open, and many of the issues I might have raised as an independent member of Parliament are now right up there on the agenda as Lord Mayor of Sydney. So that really works for Sydney, it works for my constituents.
One of the criticisms, of course, when you decided to go for Lord Mayor, and in fact was successful, was that you would be collecting 2 wages, and that was outrageous. But you set up the Lord Mayor's Fund. Tell me about it, because I think this is a really terrific idea. I set up a Lord Mayor's Salary Trust, and this group make decisions for me. I've said I'd want my salary to go to the most disadvantaged groups in the Sydney. I've been able to now give, I think it's about $420,000, and it's gone to people that are on the edge, people who are perhaps mentally ill or have drug and alcohol problems, and it's also going to innovative projects, and it's also going to projects that perhaps wouldn't get funding. And they get seed funding, and then they might be able to apply and get other funding and keep really, really important programs going. I'm really proud I can do that. I'm hoping others that perhaps earn more than they need might also think about giving some of that to people who need it more.
And are any stepping forward?
They haven't so far, but I'm still hopeful. You know, we really do need to weigh up what we need, and I think many people get amazing salaries, and there are many who have a great deal of need, and I think we should be thinking about that. I think we need to be a compassionate society.
You're a passionate advocate for sustainability, aren't you?
Yes.
Much has been made of desalination plant here in New South Wales. What are your thoughts on that?
Well,
not far from the heart of the city, by the way.
It's not far, and really, I believe the government should be looking at other options before desalination.
Where do you start?
Well, you start with educating the community. You start with water harvesting. You start with recycling. You start with reusing. And I mean, it's as though we've just discovered we're the driest continent on Earth, and we all need to do something about it. We are the driest continent. And we need to change what we do. We all need to change from our English cottage gardens to Australian native gardens. There are whole lots of things. A lot of it is about education. And there's very strong support in the New South Wales community for these other options before we go down the desalination path.
One thing I also wanted to talk to you about was one would expect in your position that you'd live in a grand home in a very plush suburb, but you're actually in Redfern, which has copped a lot of abuse and a lot of media criticism, and certainly people have been unaware of the delights of Redfern for a long time. And you're proudly a Redfern resident, aren't you?
And have been for many years. And it's a bit of a well-kept secret. I mean, the inner city now, unfortunately, is getting quite expensive. But where we live in Redfern, it's just very close to Moore Park, and it's very close to the city, and it's got a wonderful community. And yes, I'm a proud Redfernite, and that's where we've brought up our family.
It has gentrified enormously, though. I mean, I'm sure that most people around Australia would have at some time heard about the race riots, and it copped such a battering during that time. But I was actually in Redfern yesterday, and walking through the streets, it's changed enormously, even in the last 18 months since I moved to Melbourne.
Well, the city's doing a lot of work in an area that had been previously neglected. Just in the last 18 months, we've put 20 million into a new Redfern Park, and that's where our rabbitohs are going to be training.
And aren't they doing well?
Aren't they doing well? And we've just put funding into an upgrade of Redfern Street, and that's looking very beautiful. And we've just upgraded all our small parks. And I have to say, I started my political life as a councillor in Redfern, and I can't tell you how satisfying it is for me now, as Lord Mayor, to be sponsoring all these major projects
for
a fabulous, fabulous area, and it's looking beautiful. The trees are growing, the corner parks are wonderful, and there's a great deal of pride about the area now, and so it is. It's a great area to be.
Clover, the APEC summit is about to take place in Sydney in a week's time. How will that affect Sydney-siders? I think there was a lot made of the fact when George Bush visited, everything closed down, all the freeways and the tunnels and everything. Will they be affected?
I think what's a real pity about this is when heads of state have come in the past, the great thing has been the motorcade and the people on the side of the road, welcoming and waving flags. And that's what happened when Princess Mary and Frederick came out, and people were so excited about it. It's, of course, it's what's happened when the Queen has come. And I just think it's a pity that the approach now seems to be to keep people out. People are actually discouraged to be in Sydney. Clearly the federal and state government have worked very hard in trying to create a safe environment for world leaders. My view is we're the global city of Australia. We should be able to host world leaders who come here to talk about major issues affecting us all, especially an issue like global warming, for example. And we should be able to provide a safe environment. I just think it's a real pity we've reached the point where we have to have, a water cannon and discourage people from being around. And I think, if that's where we've got in the 21st century, I think that's a real pity. But I do think we should be able to have those world leaders here. I think that's really important, and that they are able to discuss issues of world significance.
Clover, it's been delightful to meet you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. And
we're waiting for our keys.
Sydney.
Where are our keys to the city?
We will enjoy Sydney. We're looking forward to getting out and about all this week. So thank you so much for having us.
Good. Thank you.
So much.
Nice to meet you this morning.
Good to meet you.
We'll be back with lots more of 9am right after this.